OTAN, Outreach and Technical Assistance Network.
So everybody, welcome and thank you for coming. My name is Johanna Gleason, and this is Vela. We work together at San Diego College of Continuing Education. Together, we co-chair our Teachers Using Technology, TUT committee. And so we run trainings and workshops and meetings generally to help, help teachers with their technology needs, to answer questions they have, to demonstrate things and to find out, we try to, as much as we can, I wouldn't say I'm great at this, keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on, try to stay ahead of people so that we can be prepared to answer questions that teachers might have about technology and what to use. So today we're going to be talking for the most part about grading aspects in Canvas, or record keeping aspects in Canvas, but we will look at Canvas more generally, and we'll talk a little bit about how using certain practices in Canvas can help engage our students. And then we will also talk a little bit about accessibility if we've got enough time at the end. And before we launch into the presentation, Chris, did you want to?
Yes, so there we go. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vela, and I'm co-presenting with Johanna Gleason. As she was saying, we are both coordinators of our teachers using technology in our district. And we are here just to go over some specific areas in the gradebook. Well, actually no specific areas, but we're just going to be talking about in general the gradebook, the speedgrader, and whether you use it or not. It's a great feature to explore. In case you have maybe higher level students, or even at a beginning low level, ESL students, they can you can still assign some homework and grade them. So I think we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, I wanted to ask really quick before we start talking about, well, I guess this is the question. How many people are active Canvas users? So this is new. This morning when we were doing another session, we learned that a lot of people don't use Canvas. So yeah, do you use Canvas?
No, I'm looking to use Canvas instead of Google Classroom or adult education.
Interesting. So, and folks who are in the chat, or sorry, who are on Zoom, can you raise your hand if you're active Canvas users? Or if you're not, can you let us know, what you're hoping to get from this session? So that was interesting to me to hear that. Some people here are considering using Canvas, and some people are not, using Canvas yet. So this is not really an introduction to Canvas, but I will be very happy if anybody needs or wants to go over some Canvas basics, so that we can show you how it works. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Chris to lead the Let's Talk bit, yeah?
Yes, so if we only have 2 people here in our Zoom, in our in-person class, so we'll probably just talk with our audience here in person, one by one, but in the chat, we would like you to share your job title and your general experience. If you're using the gradebook, what it has been your general experience. Do you have experience using it? Do you have zero experience? And one challenge using the gradebook in Canvas.
And I'm seeing in the chat that we have other people who are not Canvas because they're interested in learning more. They don't know a lot about it. So we might need to do a kind of basics.
Yes, we're gonna have to adjust our lesson to basic because we will have to talk about.
I don't think you need to. For me, you don't need to adjust it to basic. I want to see the details because I'm using the gradebook that it's not really gradebook in Google Classroom. So I want to be able to see the details. What can you do in Canvas that you can't do in Google Classroom?
Okay, All right.
What do you
Great.
teach?
I teach science, but I'm also in my district, I create all the the adult ed student accounts, student Google accounts. And, maintain those as well, so I wear a couple hats.
So if you moved to Canvas, you would be like creating and maintaining the student accounts also?
Yeah, so we would
Okay.
pull over the student accounts from our Google accounts into Canvas.
Okay,
Which I presume is something, I understand that Canvas works pretty well with Google accounts, correct, so.
yeah, there are integration options for sure. I don't use any of them, so. But yeah. Okay,
And the rest of the audience, oh, yeah,
I would just say for myself, is I used Canvas in the past,
yeah.
and I learned from the grade book how not to do it.
How not,
I made some mistakes, and I said, oh, yeah, I'm not gonna do that way anymore.
yeah,
So it has to do with how you input stuff in
yes.
and assignment dates and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that Canvas is great. The grade book and the grading options are great because what they can do is prompt students to do things that they might not otherwise do if you set things up correctly. So,
Or
yeah,
the students cannot do anything, and then you have a grade
Yes.
book.
And a further question I had, like from the admin perspective, is it pretty easy for all teachers on your Canvas to send their grades to the admin so they can see what they are?
So that actually is not something I'm gonna be talking about today, but the short answer is kind of no. When you download the Canvas gradebook, if you need to like email it to an admin as an attachment, it typically like triplicates, and that is annoying to, I think, the teachers who are looking at it because it doesn't
Well,
look.
the question is, how do you submit grades? Is
Okay,
the
so,
question.
we don't have to where we work, we're graded or ungraded, like there's pass fail basically. I worked at San Diego State, and I don't know because I'm not an admin, but yeah, there was a set of instructions I would follow, and it moved my grades straight from Canvas into they were
SIS
using at the
system.
time. Yeah, what do you call it?
SIS system.
Yes, and so it was, it was a set of steps I had to follow. Once all my grading was done, it probably took me about 5 minutes, and it uploaded them as a batch, and it was very easy. So I can't tell you how to do that, but as a teacher,
Well, I just need to know that it can be done.
yeah. And I don't know what you have to do on the back end to get it ready, but it was super easy from the perspective of a teacher. Yeah, okay, and I'm seeing some questions that are kind of specific in the chat about how to use gradebooks for specific assignments and how to find work that students have submitted that you can't open. So I think what we're gonna do is leave some time at the end.
Right.
So that we can do some individual troubleshooting
Right.
with people.
Troubleshooting, yes.
Okay. All right, so these are the things we had planned to talk about, taking attendance in Canvas, grouping and weighting assignments. And that's something you need to do to make sure that your gradebook looks nice. Using the SpeedGrader, which is super easy, annotating on student assignments, which is not applicable only to writing assignments, but anything that they submit that's a document or a PDF that you can look at, you can make comments directly on. Creating rubrics, and then we might look at something, we might leave the accessibility out actually, depending on how many questions everyone has, I think. We'll play it by ear. Okay, so I was gonna start off by talking about taking attendance in Canvas. Attendance does not automatically appear on your Canvas menu. You have to enable it in navigation. And I'll go through the steps for how to do that. First of all, you can see here to navigation. You're gonna drag the attendance up to the, whatever it is people can see. I'll give a quick demonstration. And then once it's on your menu, you just open it up. You can project this in class and show your students, and you can take attendance live while you're there. And one of the reasons that I love this is that when I start taking attendance in class, especially if I'm teaching a remote class, when the students see me doing it, they perk up, they start paying attention, they start typing in chat, they start unmuting themselves and answering, and they turn their cameras on. They want me to know they're there when they see that I'm taking attendance. So to get to the attendance, you've got to go to your settings, Can everyone see my cursor moving
Yes.
around? Okay, I don't wanna be annotating and stuff, it gets complicated, but yeah. So click on your settings, open up your settings, and then you're gonna go up here to navigation along the top. We've got course details open. We're gonna go to navigation, and then you're gonna go down here and find attendance.
Mhm.
Here it is, and you can either just drag it up to the top, or you can click on these three dots and click enable instead. But now it's up here in the course navigation, I can see it there, and you've always got to remember with Canvas to go down to the bottom and save. If you, I do that all the time. If you exit the screen without saving, it doesn't matter that you dragged it up there, it won't be there anymore. So you save it, go back home, and now it appears in your navigation. Click on attendance. And there's your roster. And so, as I said, I use this a lot with the online students, and when they start turning on their cameras and unmuting themselves. But I've used it also with fully in-person classes. I've used it with, I taught at San Diego State University. I used it with my business writing students. These were like sophomores and juniors, credit bearing courses. And I use it with my in-person students also. So they all see their names, right, while you're taking attendance. And a green check mark means they're present, a red X means they're absent, and you can also mark them late. The orange button means that they're late. And so they all see you there when you're taking attendance. And I'll totally have students like run up to me after class to say, hey, I think you might have marked me absent. So it really does, I don't know, it makes them aware that you're paying attention to them. It's so funny because I think we're always paying attention to our students, but they kind of think sometimes that we don't. I mean, I have students halfway through the semester say, oh, teacher, my name is Khadijah. And I'm like, I know. but I think they kind of feel invisible in class sometimes. So it just lets them know that you're paying attention. And as I said, all those black screens, all those muted students, when I start doing this, I totally get unmuted students. I totally get, their videos turned on, and it does really make them interact with me a lot more. So before we move on, any questions about Canvas attendance?
And that integrates with your SIS system? Whatever.
I don't know about
I
that.
don't know.
I kind of doubt that it would, to be honest.
Let's Google it.
Yeah, she's like, we can Google it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not an admin, so I can't really answer a lot of those questions. I doubt it. As I said, when I had to upload my grades, it was they weren't integrated. It was an upload that I had to do. And where we work now, you can use, the reason I use this in Canvas now is just to show the students. It's more like a communication tool with them. We actually submit our attendance differently with our SIS. Is that like, that's what Campus Solutions is? It's an SIS?
Yeah.
PeopleSoft is an SIS?
Where that holds the official,
Right.
yeah.
So
attendance.
these are not official.
And that just stands for Student Information System.
Right, okay, yeah, so this.
I do something similar. I create a Google Doc and my students type in there for their role.
Right,
But when I officially put in the role, I have to go into our Student Information System
yes,
and do that. So-
and we have to do that too.
But it'd be really great if you just did it once and it moved it up.
Yeah.
You know,
There might be a way of doing that, I don't know, I don't know. You might need to go get on the phone with the Canvas admin folks and talk about an integration and get permission from your district to do all that stuff. Okay. All right, so grouping and weighting assignments. I'm gonna probably take a quick detour here. I'm gonna go back to Canvas. Can you all, everyone at home, you see my Canvas course? Everybody who's on Zoom, can you see it? Okay. All right, so over here on our navigation, we have things, in fact, I guess I have things that aren't showing, right? We have this assignments page here. So you can click on assignments and you can add assignments into your course by clicking on the plus sign over here or by clicking on add assignment up here. Both are ways to add assignments. Okay, you can decide how many points you want those assignments to be. You can decide that maybe you don't want them to be points, you want them to be a percentage or on a 4.0 GPA scale or complete, incomplete. They can even be non-graded assignments. So you have a bunch of options as far as those are concerned. you can decide how you want the students to submit the assignments. So I'm an ESL teacher. Sometimes I want them to write something, and in that case, I'll usually request that they do a text entry. Sometimes I want them to record themselves speaking so I can listen. And in that case, I'll request that it be a media recording. Sometimes they need to create like a, you know, a Google Doc or a Word document, and then they'll upload it to Canvas later so that I can grade it. So you can choose those things, whatever it is that you want. You can set a due date. Okay, pretty typically, I don't set due dates for my students, but one of the great advantages of setting due dates is that it makes it appear on the student calendar and they get reminders on their homepage that something is coming up. Okay, so they don't have to go look for assignments, they don't have to go into their modules, they just get, when they log into Canvas, it's on their to-do list, it's on their front page, and it lets them know that they need to do that. You can also make things available from a specific time to a specific time. So I've done things like that with my in-person classes. I want them to take a test in class with me. I make it available from the date and time that that class starts, and I end it on the date and time that that class ends. That way I know that they're all doing it in class while I'm there watching them. You know, there are lots of options as far as that's concerned. Maybe you want to give them a week to do it, you know, maybe you, yeah, and I've done that too, right? They're doing, you mentioned Vessel, they're writing resumes, they're, you know, doing, job search research. They might need a week or something to do that. So anyway, you have options there. So once you've, created your assignment, you're gonna make sure you click save, and you probably wanna click save and publish if you want the students to see it. I don't publish everything right away, like sometimes I only publish things later. But again, don't forget, that's a thing that's pretty easy to forget. You've gotta remember to click save, otherwise it's just gonna completely disappear, and I need an assignment, otherwise. Yeah, it's not gonna save it for me. Oops, and look. Can we just delete this now? I don't know, I gotta put one in there. Oh, no, it won't delete it. This is an old course. We'll do it now. Yeah, there we go, okay. So this is an assignment that we've added. You can also add quizzes if you'd rather it be a quiz than an assignment. And quizzes, again, I wasn't really prepared to go over quizzes, but when you're adding quizzes, you have your main assignment and where you'll give instructions, right? Here's my quiz. Here are my instructions to the students. And down here, I can set, if I want them to have a time limit, if I want to shuffle the answers. One of the things I like to do, because my assignments are low stakes and I teach non-credit and it's not graded, I like to allow multiple attempts because I want the students to practice as much as they want to practice. But, you know, you can decide that or not. If you do allow multiple attempts, you can keep the highest grade or the latest grade, or you can keep an average of all of their grades. And then, so you have another variety of options. Again, you can set due dates. So that's just the information about the quiz. But then this is where you start providing your quiz questions.
Can you import like a Google form?
Do you know?
No,
Mm-mm.
no,
I haven't, yeah.
I tried multiple times.
But once a quiz is in there, you can reuse it as much as you want. You can
Right.
reuse it and you can edit it.
Mhm.
Okay, so again, so we've got multiple choice, but you have a bunch of options here. True, false, fill in the blank, fill in multiple blanks. There's a whole lot of, you know, options for the type of quiz question you want. And you can also have them do text. So this is where it would be like maybe an essay question. But if you want them to write an essay, instead of having them upload a file or, you know, attach a Word document, you can have them write their essay or write their text right here in the quiz and grade it right there, which can be kind of nice. Okay, I don't know if it's gonna let me save this, because I don't have material.
I was gonna say something about the doc, because I've done this, which is, integral, upload a document, like a Google Doc, but that would be on their assignment.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily in
Yeah.
quizzes.
I know I could give a link to a Google form, but I want to be able to pull in the score from the
Yeah.
Google form.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I
Canvas has
tried
a lot of
multiple
integrations.
times.
What, okay, but that might be because your school isn't integrated.
No, I was working with a Canvas administrator, trying to pull stuff in
Okay.
and work on that. And, cause I had all those Google Docs and forms and stuff.
That you wanna reuse.
And, yeah, and there was no way.
There's no way to do it, okay. Is it possible that there's integration with Microsoft?
I don't know. I
Because
didn't
maybe,
try
you know,
Microsoft,
Maybe
but Google was a no-go.
Yeah, not that I know, of, but.
Okay, so that's how you're adding assignments and adding quizzes. But if you want, if you're gonna be using it to grade, you're gonna want to, wait, you know, we have a syllabus, right? Maybe the final exam is gonna be worth 25% of the overall grade. Maybe the written assignments are gonna be worth 50% of the grade. You're a science teacher, maybe you have labs they have to write, that's gonna be a certain percentage. So in order to do that, you've got to group your assignments, and then you've got to weight the final, you've got to weight each group, okay? So, basically, that's what we're doing here. We're gonna add groups of assignments. We're gonna decide what percentage that group is worth for the final grade. And then you look at all of your groups, make sure they add up to 100%. And then you don't have to do the math. Canvas does all the math for you. Once you set up those assignment groups, you can create new assignments and make sure that you move them into the group you want them in. If you already created assignments before you set up your groups, that's fine. You can just move the assignments you have into groups. And, you know, if you've got assignments there and you're like, you know what, I don't want those to count for the overall grade, you can delete them, or you can put them into a group that's worth 0%. So I'll give you another quick demonstration of how to do that in Canvas. We've got a question in chat here. Oh, thanks, Chris, that was just you. All right, I had a link to, okay. No, that's not it. I thought I had a Canvas, course ready for that. But I'm gonna have to go in and grab a course. Sorry, poor preparation on my part here. Okay.
Questions over here, Laura, any questions? Well, I'm just curious what you kept saying about like that 0%, because I created assignments where like maybe I'm over expecting my students to finish, and some of them finish, but others don't finish, so like the majority of them have a 0, right? So how can I move that into like a 0%, or it doesn't count towards their overall grade? Because she was saying something about maybe bringing it
Yeah.
into a 0
Okay,
category or something like that.
so we can add groups.
Uh-huh.
So we'll say, for example, let's say final exam.
Right,
We've got a final exam, that's one group. We've got another group, which is, classwork. Right, we've got another group, which is homework. Okay. And maybe we'll say we also have quizzes. So I'm clicking on group and I'm creating, different groups, quizzes. Quizzes and assignments, okay? And then when I scroll down and I look at all of my assignments in Canvas, I've got these groups down here that are empty, right? These groups are empty. So I want to start moving some of my assignments into these groups. Okay, so I'm gonna move this to quizzes and assignments. I'm gonna move this to quizzes and assignments. I'm gonna move this to quizzes and assignments.
And by the way, I teach the beginning literacy level ESL, so you can imagine, we don't use, I don't use grades that much, in my class. Because of the low literacy levels, and we just use kind of repository place to get information and just do a couple of, just do discussions there. But if you have, but it's doable to do that, all of this in, regardless of the level of your students. It's a great tool to use, especially for, grouping all of this activities and, having all the grade book and showing at the end of your course, all the students' activities and their progress. So it is a great tool. However, I don't group homeworks or assignments.
Yeah. Okay, so once you've got your groups in there, you're gonna go back up here to the top and click on that menu with the 3 dots and
Mhm.
go to assignment groups weight, okay? Weight final grade based on assignment, okay? Click on there, and you're gonna decide how much you want each of these groups to be worth. So I'm gonna say I want look at all these assignments. I'm gonna have to move those around. Okay, let's say I want the discussions to be worth 25%. I want the quizzes to be worth 25%. I want the assignments to be worth 25%. And I want I'm gonna have to add some other things there. For right now,
Yeah.
I'll go with the live sessions will be worth 25%. Okay. All right. And then when I scroll down, you can see everything in here is worth 0% of the total. So if you put any assignments into this group and your students complete them, even if they're worth 30 points, whatever it is, that is not gonna show up in the final grade
got it.
calculation.
Okay.
So you can have them do it just for practice.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna harm or hurt their grade if they do it or don't do it.
We have to create a group first. for
Right.
You've gotta create a group
Yeah.
first.
Okay.
So can we do the assignment, realize people aren't doing the assignment, put it into a group and then move them all into a group to get them off our,
You don't want to be moving them in and out of groups after students have started submitting work, because it messes up this.
Right.
The student will see their grade calculation change wildly and they won't understand why, and you're gonna have to answer a lot of questions about it. So I would not advise that you make any changes. I would advise that you set up your groups before your class starts. And then you can create more assignments in the groups after class has started. But I wouldn't change assignments. I wouldn't move them into different groups because I've done that because I've made mistakes. And then I've had students say, oh my God, teacher, my grade went from 88 to 37. What happened? So, and that's because I was moving things around. And similar things can happen, in Canvas. The default for Canvas Gradebook is that, if a student hasn't submitted an assignment, the grade calculation is done without that assignment, so that unsubmitted assignment is not factored into the average, the grade
Unless you set
average.
it, right? 'Cause
Unless you
set
set
to
it.
do a
Unless-
zero
yes,
automatically to let
exactly.
them know it's not.
And so that's the thing, like if I'm
Okay.
teaching my class all semester and I haven't set it like you
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
my students are gonna think they're doing great,
'Cause
and
it's
now I
not.
have to calculate my grades, I stick that in there, now everyone's failing, but that's
Yeah.
not a fair thing to do to your
Right,
students,
correct.
right?
I
So
think
you
that's
need
a
to make
learning
sure.
one, because originally when I used Canvas, I didn't do that, so everybody had like a really high percentage, even though they
Yes.
were missing
Yes.
stuff. But now, after practice, I make sure I set it to, if you haven't submitted, you get a 0.
Yes.
That way students know what they're missing and they know their exact grade.
The same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
I learned it when we went online with no
Yes.
notice and no training.
Yes.
And that's how I learned not to
Right.
do it, right? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna actually stick a few things into my final exams. Because the reason that some of these, groups weren't showing up is that they have, they don't have anything in them. Okay, so 25.
I don't see anything in the chat, but I see something here in the chat. I wonder if that's, is it the hour? Because I don't see anything. Is there any?
there's a Patty.
No, nobody's writing in the chat now. I've been answering the chat questions.
Okay.
Okay. So then once you've set up your assignments, if you go back to the grade book, and honestly, I kind of hate Canvas Gradebook. Because, I'll show you why. Like, look at how long it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you cannot see the whole grade book at one glance. You have to see how long it takes to go through all of this stuff. Okay, well, Chris can show you the filters in a second, yeah,
So sweet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, but what, and I'm gonna like delete all of those zeros in just a second. But what you'll see if you go to the end is the grades that are worth 25, like the overall, what that's worth 25%. You know, those are the assignments that are carrying weight and that are affecting their grade overall. So let me just go back into the assignments and delete out all of those, 0% assignment groups. Okay, so where are my assignments? I've lost them now. Way down there, right, way down there. Okay. This might take too long to do, as a process. 25, 25, 25, 25, and then I'm gonna delete the encoded assignments. I could move into another group, right? And then let's put some of these down here, right? Classwork, homework, yeah, so I want, so now if I go back to my grades, it's still long and really annoying, and yes, you can apply those filters. But, so because, no, look, I've still got, I'm such an idiot, okay. Well, I'm not gonna do it right now, but basically you can scroll to the end and you can look at the assignment groups that actually bear weight in the class. You don't have to look at all of the assignments altogether. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. Do we have questions about grouping and weighting assignments?
Can I just ask for
Yeah.
clarification?
Uh-huh.
If you have, let's say your 100 assignments and you have some at these different points, are they on there twice, like in group final exam and then somewhere else? Are they only in the final exam?
Can you ask
Let
again,
me-
sorry?
Yeah, I'll ask again. Okay, so let's say I have, say hi to a dog. Okay, that's an assignment,
Mhm.
and that's in the final exam. Is it only located in the final exam? It's not somewhere else in the grade book?
Well, you have to put it where you want it.
Yeah.
So if you put it in final exam, you shouldn't duplicate it and put it anyplace else.
But it wouldn't be in two places, like in terms of when it was assigned versus it's a final exam. Like, sometimes when you create it, then you create it for this day, but then it goes into that group category.
Things only go into the group category if you put them in the group category.
Okay,
So if I'm going back to my assignments and looking here at my assignments, so you know, you can see I've got these assignments that are in these 25% categories.
right,
But let's say, you know, yeah, so they're only in the one place where you put them.
okay,
They're
perfect,
only in the one place where you put them.
okay,
You can move them, right? So maybe I've decided, okay, you know what, I was gonna have discussions be 25%, but I don't really want to have a discussions group anymore, so I'm gonna move that to homework. Okay, I'm gonna call that homework, move this one to homework.
And that's regardless of the date you created.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what date you created. Now, because I don't have anything in homework, I'm gonna say, I don't really need to have discussions be 25% anymore. But I put some stuff in homework, so I want that to, why is that not, there it is, okay. But I put some stuff in homework, so I want that to be worth 25%. Don't do this after you start class. If you do this after you start class, you're gonna mess up your student grades.
right,
But yeah, so now, and I could completely delete that, that assignment group now.
okay,
But yeah, it doesn't matter what date you create it, But if you create an assignment and you don't put it in a group, let's see, create assignment.
People can go. Okay, I can put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder what the default is if you don't save it to,
I think, that's what I'm testing right now.
yeah.
I think it's it's not gonna be in a group. But let's go back to the assignments and see.
And Zoomers, we're troubleshooting here, or not troubleshooting, just
So
exploring.
quizzes. Oh, look at that. It put it in quizzes, okay? So I created a new assignment and it put it in quizzes because I didn't specify. So you need to specify when you create an assignment where you want it to go, okay? Create an assignment. We'll do test here. And then down here, blah, 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 test, blah, 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 test. Okay, and, oh, because that was the default here. So I've got to choose a place to put it. I've got to choose a place to put it. If I don't choose a place, it's gonna choose for me. It's gonna choose whatever the default is. So if you want to make sure that it's in the right place, make sure you're looking at that assignment and then you put it in the right place. So I didn't want that to be in quizzes. I wanted that to be in homework. And now I'm gonna go down here and save. Okay, that was a good question. Thank you. It helped me to understand what I was saying. Do you have assignment tabs on the right available for your students, or do you embed all activities in modules? So personally, I hide almost all of the navigation from students. So if you look at my course here, and we'll go back home, you can see over here, and I don't know why badges are enabled. I didn't mean to enable those. But all of these things where it says, like there's that eye thing through it, that means the students can't see it. I can go to the student view up here. And so if I'm a student logging into my class, the only options I have to go look at are badges, which I'm gonna delete, I don't know how that got there, grades and syllabus, okay? And I think I haven't published any assignments yet in this course, which is why students can't see it, so once I publish them, they'll see them. But what will happen is, under this to-do list, the things I publish for students will appear here, and that's where they click on to go do them. So, yeah, like, yeah, I think when there's a lot of things for the students to choose from, if they can choose all those different things, quizzes and pages and assignments and all kinds of other things, I think they get confused. But once you've published assignments, yeah, that's why not, let me stop the student view, okay? I don't think I have any published assignments in here. This is a problem, right? I haven't published, no, there's published assignments. So that's weird. I guess I disabled it. I guess I disabled it in the settings. So I'll go back down to settings here. I'll look at my navigation. I'm gonna take badges out because I don't know why that was in there. And I'm gonna go back down here and I can put, my assignments back in, which disappeared. I'm not sure why.
So
Okay. I don't know if you can disable modules. I don't know. Let's see. So, but don't forget to save, because I always forget to save and then I go back and I don't understand why it's there. But now if I go home and I click student view, oops, that was immersive view, not student view. Now you can see that the things the student, oh, I guess I enabled discussion. That was stupid of me. But anyway, badges disappeared and these are the things that the students can see. Yeah, so I just think when they have too many options, it gets confusing and they don't know what to do. So get rid of discussions. I don't want that there. And I'm still not sure why I announced that. I don't even use announcements. I know a lot of people do, but I don't use announcements. And then where are these?
I think it all depends on the level of,
Yeah.
Canvas navigation proficiency of your students. If they're able to navigate Canvas with not a lot of problems, then, you're encouraged to use, the assignment option there, the modules. But for our population, especially at the beginning level, putting a lot of these options can be very confusing and overwhelming for our population of students.
So this is what I usually set. This course I'm showing you can see it's from summer 2023, and I actually never used it. I never published it because it was an in-person class. But that's what I would usually have on my Canvas courses visible to students, home, grades, syllabus, and assignments. And then I pretty typically put big buttons on there that they can click on, because for the same reason Chris is talking about, it's, if they see great big colorful buttons, it's easier for them to find those and click on those. But yeah, you can play around with that navigation and do it the way that you want to. Okay, so I'm getting lots of questions here. So, I can show you, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but I can show you a more contemporary class, where you would see what my actual students would see. So dashboard and so this is an example of a class that I'm teaching now. And this is my homepage, and the students have these big buttons here they can click on to get to the syllabus, to practice English and to do homework. And then on the corner, on the side here, they got home, grade, syllabus, and modules. That's all they can see. And this is a very, like Chris said, this is a level, this is a literacy class. A lot of the students don't have digital literacy yet. So when I train them to use it, I just tell them to go to practice English, which actually takes them to modules. And then they can go through and they can start practicing these activities. So that's an example of what one of my active class pages looks like. Leave student view, and I can show you one more active class. So again, student view, and you can see these guys have a little bit more to choose from. This is a more advanced level class. That this is not a literacy class, and this is a mixed level class. So I enable more things for them to see. And then I just got this little link here, click here to practice English. Okay, so back to the presentation. Looks like, okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna turn things over to Chris so that she can talk about using SpeedGrader. Okay.
Awesome. So, the SpeedGrader is, a very nice tool to give students feedback. You basically, when you create an assignment, and then you're ready to, grade, you have a little section where you can type, or annotate on the student, depending on the file of the student's work. So, let me see if I can log into my Canvas here. I don't think I'll have an example here, but, yes, so the SpeedGrader will give you options to annotate students' work, and also give them feedback, either with text or a video submission. You can also it gives you the option to give, to submit a video. So it is a great tool, although I can tell you it is time consuming. Because if you have 36 students that you need to grade, their homework or assignment.
Is it the annotations you're looking for?
I think no, I was just gonna show, a little how it looked like, just like a little section of the SpeedGrader, so then I can point out all the options that teachers can find. So you can, either, submit a feedback through text on the SpeedGrader or, a video. I tend to use, the video option for the SpeedGrader if they submit a writing assignment. And that's a little more personalized, but again, if you commit to that, then you have to probably do it for the amount of students that you have, and that can be time consuming. But it's a pretty cool tool, yes.
So I only have 2 out of 2 submissions, but you can show the SpeedGrader
Yes,
here if you
so-
want.
Here it is, so, say, your student already submitted an assignment, so then you'll go to the SpeedGrader. And then you'll have up at the top, all the students, and you can kind of go, student by student. And
This isn't the greatest example because lots of these students didn't submit this assignment. So,
and if they haven't submitted, what I've done in the past is, all right, so let's check who has submitted the assignment.
you do that in class, live in class.
Yes.
Well, do you know what else I've done, which is kind of mean, and I've only done it to my credit, my sophomores and juniors at the university who should know better. I'll give them a 0. And that's because they see their grade drop immediately. They log on, they're like, oh my God, what happened? and I'm sorry that it gives them a heart attack, but then they'll write to me to say, oh my God, what happened? And I'll say, well, you didn't turn your assignment, you know? But I only do that kind of as a last resort, like that's usually after I emailed them to say, hey, you haven't turned this in, are you gonna turn it in? You know, I would never do that as a first resort, and I would never do that with my adult students. That's the, you know, the business majors, you know,
They should know better.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And it's a
Zero
last
for you.
resort. And I never leave it at the zero. I'm like, do you wanna make it up, you know, so.
Yes, but it's a good practice, you know, if you wanna get students, you know, aware of what they're missing in
Mhm.
class, going over, it could be a good way
Yeah.
to do
And
that.
then, oh, Maria, you didn't turn yours in. Oh, like, yeah.
Yes,
Uh-huh,
yeah, you
didn't
can
turn
call
yours
it.
in. Uh-huh.
So here's an example of a writing from a student. So then you have options of annotating, and I don't know if you're aware of this toolbar, but you know, you can annotate here. This is the part I was talking about when it's time consuming. If you have 36 students, then you have to annotate, and this could be like tedious work. You know, you have the options to highlight, to insert text in the document, or cross out, or, you know, draw something. So you have plenty of things that you can do on the student's work. And also add a comment. And this is what I was talking about earlier. What I do with my students, I revise, I check, and the work that my students do is very minimal. You know, they have to type my first name is, my last name is. Even just with those two sentences, it could be very challenging for the population I have. So if they type that, I make the corrections, and then here, what I will do is I'll write, you know, great job. Or if you click over here, you can submit a short video of, you know, yourself saying, nice job, Mohammed, you submitted your work, you know, great work. So that is a little more personalized, but again, how many students you'll have, so how many videos you'll have to submit. Short videos though. You can use emojis or, you know, these, reactions over here, and then reassign the, homework. You know, if they have to do it again because there were so many mistakes, you can also reassign. So you can do all of this as they are watching you, you know, so they are aware of what they need to do, or, you know, they'll see all of these, notes when they log in into their Canvas. You may have to show them how to look onto your notes and their feedback, but, you know, once you annotate here, they'll be able to see your notes. I think Johanna is doing, yes, a demonstration here. You messed up.
You messed
That's a
up.
little mean.
Me teacher. Right, we can put a box around things.
And I don't know, I think, one of the, you know, this gentleman over here mentioned something about classroom, and I forgot your name, sir. I'm
Aaron.
sorry. Gary.
Aaron, I
Aaron,
didn't tell you my name, so you couldn't forget it.
Sorry. So, what is this in comparison to, like, you know, Google Classroom? Do you have that option in Google Classroom to give feedback with
Yeah, yeah.
video and?
I mean, when you're grading, you can add comments, you can highlight and do a comment. So you can do comments over on the right, just like that, or you can highlight something in the text itself and do a comment. If you needed a video or something, you could, put the URL to it in the
Oh,
comments.
so then you have to put the URL. Here, if you click on that video, I think it's already integrated. You just need to give permission to your camera and just.
Yeah, you can
Right.
start recording, you can,
Yeah, you'd have
you
to
can
do,
record a message to your students here, and then
You-
there's a.
there
video.
are Google extensions that allow you to do that. But it isn't built in automatically to Google Classroom.
So that's a con on Google Side. Okay, all right. And then you can also attach files in case you are providing rubrics or something that, refer to the, you know, grammar PDF file that we studied in class last week, so you can submit also
Oops, sorry.
a file. Yes, so there are many ways to give students feedback. You know, we talk about, you know, how important it is to give, you know, feedback to our students, and especially like on-time feedback. So here is the annotating student writing assignment. As you can see, this is part of the toolbar, the annotation toolbar. You have different colors, you know, all the bells and whistles of the things that you could do in you know, in the annotation feature here. Yes, this is the part that for me is, I remember doing that in our student learning outcomes for the unit of writing. And it took me days to finish all of that because students were asked to submit a paragraph and you have to go all the paragraph and check for mistakes and spelling, and that took a little while there. And if you want to customize and add notes of encouragement, I mean, this is where we need AI, just
Yeah.
great
I
everything.
agree. If they could
Do
get
it for
AI
me.
to do this.
Don't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
And make it sound like a human, feedback. But yes, this is an excellent tool, but again, it will be, it is time consuming.
Yeah.
What else? The next slide.
Well, I was gonna say, so in order for this to work, the student has to submit their
Right.
assignment as a file upload.
File.
But if they don't, you can download things and comment on there and then re-upload them back, if you wanna do that.
Okay.
So if you do a text entry for their writing, for example, you can't annotate.
That's right.
Right.
You can still make the comments in that
And the
comment
comment
box, but you
box.
can't
Oh,
annotate.
okay, got
It
it.
has to be a
A
file.
file upload, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we can.
The size of the letters.
Yeah.
Yes, 10 different colors, wow. You
Yeah.
didn't even count them, but 10 different colors. Okay. What else?
Strike through.
Yeah, you can strike through
You can
and
add a little pin, yeah, I mean, all these things.
nothing has changed. I think it has been the same. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And then adding the rubric there. Do you guys use rubric?
Can you talk about,
Yeah.
because I've like added a rubric of my own, but I've never linked it to the Canvas where, like, if I went to the speed grader, for example, it's easier to grade, am I correct in saying that, or no?
I don't actually know if you can link it to the speed grader, that's an interesting question.
Of course you can.
Do you know?
Of course you can.
Okay. Anna Di Fraganza is gonna be volunteering here.
She
I
did,
don't know, maybe I mean something different, but.
live canvas demonstration of rubric, that's what I wanted to do. Okay. Okay, so when you've got an assignment there and you want to add a rubric, you scroll down and you click on add rubric. Okay, and you get your basic rubric. But, you might not want the
You
basic.
can upload them.
Do you have one?
Okay.
You can just click on find
Sorry.
rubric.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find a rubric that's, I can't, my keyboard's being weird. Okay,
Yeah.
you can click on find a rubric and you can find one
Oh,
that's
create.
there already,
Yeah, right.
right? So
Create.
And you
this,
can share with your colleagues, right?
Right.
you can
Yeah.
share with your colleagues. And anything that you create is saved and you can use it again.
And add there, use rubric for assignment grading.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Ah.
Does it auto grade or does it just attach it to the assignment?
No, you still have to grade it.
No, you still have to, but it's so much easier and
You
faster.
can
You
see,
just click
right.
on the,
2 points, 3 points, 5 points.
yes, on the
Oh.
categories, you.
Versus having to like add it up.
No, it's just boom, boom, boom,
Got
that's it.
That's what I was,
Same.
someone was mentioning that, I'm like, oh, I
Okay,
wonder.
But-
That's very similar to what they do in Google Classroom too.
right.
Oh,
Okay, so, I mean, you've got your criteria and you can, like, for example, this is a pronunciation, I want to grade the pronunciation. And then I can, if I want to, I wouldn't do this to my beginner level students, or, pronunciation is clear and whatever, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then you can add more criteria, right? And then another one, pronunciation, I want to talk about, maybe, what else would we talk about? Clarity, right? Clarity,
Prosody,
okay, sure, volume.
intonation.
So, yeah, intonation, volume. Okay, so I can add my criterion there, and then it gives you this default that each thing is worth 5 points, but of course you can change the number of points that things are worth. And, you can also add more, so here it's like they get 10 or nothing, well, you can say, this is gonna be average, for example, and I can add more, I'm gonna say you can have 8, and that's above average. Okay, and I can be as specific as I want, I can say like an assignment that gets 10 points in pronunciation has every single word enunciated clearly, and no Ts sound like Ds, and there were no contractions or something like that, for example. Not that that would be a good teaching practice, but you know what I'm saying, and then maybe 0 could be like, I can't hear anything. And so you can, you know, you can be really as specific as you want, and you can add more information to so the students can really see what they're, you know, what exactly it is that you're looking for in the assignment. And, yeah, okay, so we're gonna use this rubric for assignment grading, create the rubric. Uh-oh, look at that. This is pretty good, that it tells you to change the assignment so that, yeah, but this is not a live class.
Are we going to demonstrate how to use the rubric?
Do you want to?
I mean, we can use this.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's about, you know, should we change the number of points?
Do you have any rubrics that you can?
Let me pull up something.
It's not an official presenter, but you know what? I actually told her this was gonna happen. I was like, we're gonna have to ask Anagit how to show us something. So,
I personally do not use the rubric. I'm familiar with that, but I haven't used it for my
I
class.
used it when I taught the business writing, but it's been so long since I taught that, that I don't use it
Probably use
anymore.
it, but can you imagine, there's so much going on, you know, with, for, my students that, but we're gonna try to demonstrate.
Can you make
this.
Anagit a co-host?
Sure. If I can find it.
Oh, I see avatars, yeah, I have this, oh, that's my avatar.
But it's not just yours.
What is your name?
Wait, those are.
Anagit Treganza.
Yeah, but actually, that's.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let me share my screen.
This is from my old course. So here's the rubric. Discussion, submission, reply to other students. Full credit. Boom, boom, answer. Let's see, so first you would see, okay, the student submitted something, and if he responded to two other students, full credit for submission, and then responded to one student, 3 points, and then save.
So you just click on the points.
Yes, I just click on points, that's it,
So easy.
very easy.
I know, I wish I'd known that before. That's awesome. So then.
And I'll show you one more trick. So this student. She did it at the last moment. She sneaked in. I didn't see that. Ay. So, well, I have to change it. She gets full credit. All right, and, I'm sure you know about this, about the library,
No.
comment
Oh.
library.
Hallelujah. I was thinking too that someone mentioned comments are already.
So here you can save and pre-make
Yes.
so many things. And,
All of those hours of
And,
my life I'm never gonna get back.
oh my God, Johanna, you should just tell me, just ask. Johanna.
That's another thing that is in Google Classroom too. that
You can remake your own.
Look at that, great
No,
pronunciation.
I'm gonna sit down, and
So where is that?
Where
Where is that
Great job.
library?
Yeah, I
did it
first,
bad.
listen to the teacher, blah, blah, blah.
Are these ones that it says?
I created.
Oh, you created. Okay.
I created it, saved it, and then here, where it says assignment comments, they're here hiding.
That's not it.
You just click on it and you just say, great job, and then submit.
Oh,
Ah.
all the hours of me creating customized. When was this available?
A long time ago.
I read, you actually save.
You have to hit save for it to go into your
Yes.
library?
Yes.
Where do you do that?
So here, you click on it, and then I start typing, for example, I don't know.
Okay,
Awesome.
so I don't have one, but I have to add something like great pronunciation.
Great pronunciation, okay.
Oh, I'm gonna start using now the
Oh, my God.
the Canvas Gradebook. Now we can save a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then add to library.
Hallelujah, everybody.
No, this isn't the grade book, this is speed.
I mean, the speed grader, I'm sorry.
This is the speed grader.
Yeah, but then you're.
Okay, great pronunciation, library.
Yeah.
Did everybody see that?
Yes.
To library,
What?
Yeah.
and that's it, it's there.
So we're from LA.
Oh.
You, the only way to get that.
Oh my gosh,
into,
yes, you are the owner.
Canvas as a.
Sorry, my speech.
Right.
There's no way, and
But then you would have it.
Yeah.
That would be from my work,
But,
I wouldn't mind doing that for mine.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I know I'm not out.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, that would be awesome. So many,
So
so many things, like, I feel like, okay, next week there's gonna be something else that I would not know. I need to keep up, so. Any
Yes.
questions so far, the Zoomers? I think we have 4 chats or something there.
Private as this is.
You guys are a group up there. I got it.
We did a presentation in this room in the morning, 3 of us.
Awesome.
So.
Is it a comment library, I think? Is it?
Yeah, and when you go
Add
into
a comment
the
to library,
yeah.
and again, it's,
So, in Google, when you're doing the comments, if you start typing in, like, so it does that here too? Good.
it does.
Because I'm constantly telling my students, you need to add the title as well, so I just type the word title in
If
that.
I start typing,
Got it.
great. See,
Perfect, that's what I wanna
Yeah.
see.
great job, great pronunciation.
Perfect, I like that. That is something I definitely like about the Google Classroom, so it would be something I would not be losing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
yeah.
And those comments go across all your classes, if you have multiple classes.
I think so.
Yeah, I think once they're in the library, they
Mhm.
stay. Like,
So
and
library.
it's the same like with your rubrics, it doesn't matter what class you
Yeah,
create.
so long as you're logged in
Yes,
with your
yes,
account, you
yeah.
get those rubrics for all your
Yeah.
classes.
Same with
They
any
stay
photos you upload, I mean, if you upload photos, they're available for all your classes, not just one. Are you testing your avatar there?
I don't know, I'm just doing, yeah.
Okay, there's somebody in the chat, Anagit, maybe you can, I'm so glad
Oh,
you
sure.
can, who's asking
I'm
about,
happy.
this is a good question, and maybe it's a question for anyone. Anytime I do anything in Canvas, my students receive an email with a list of what I've done. Is there a way to stop them from getting that email?
Like announcements?
That sounds like something in the settings.
Not,
Yeah.
yeah,
Let me see.
so like, for example, if I add a quiz, the student, is that what you're saying, Rebecca? Like, if you add a quiz, your students will get an email saying that you just added a quiz to their Canvas account?
For example, like let's say I'm going through all my modules and I'm trying to get individual ones. Well, I can't, and I publish them, they don't show up in student view. So then I have to publish everything, then go back and unpublish. And my students came and showed me their emails and it had this huge list. And so I realized that anytime I do pretty much anything in there, they're getting an email notification that something's changed in Canvas. And it's stuff I need to, I kind of manipulate. I don't need them to see that. So I don't know how.
I think I would advise in that case not to publish things until you're ready for the students to see them. Because I think what Canvas is doing is telling them, your teacher's just published an assignment, you need to do it, So if you publish it and then you want to unpublish it, I think that's the problem. You think that she's publishing and unpublishing. So don't publish them until you're ready for the students to see them. But you can play around with them as much as you want when they're unpublished.
But they also notify the students if the teacher creates an assignment and they already started working on it. And the
Yeah.
teacher wants to change something.
Yeah, so my advice for correcting that would be just not to publish things until you're ready for students to start seeing them.
I think
Yeah.
there might be an option that I've seen, let students know of the changes.
Yes,
And that is, and I'm trying to find that, and
Yeah,
I
I'm
usually,
looking at it.
click on it. So it's not announcing every single time I make any changes, because I have seen that option.
Okay,
I need to find it over here.
yeah, Chris is looking into that a little bit for us. Okay. So, I mean, I think based on the comments that we got when we were starting and asking you guys about the reasons you were here, we're not gonna cover accessibility unless, I mean, accessibility is ensuring that everybody who uses any sort of assistive technology can use your class. So just like you know, buildings are required to have ramps and not just stairs for in-person students. Online courses are required to be accessible for people who need to use assistive technology in order to learn. So when you build your Canvas course, you need to, like, it's your responsibility as an instructor to build it in such a way that students who use that technology can access your course, just like you would build a building in such a way that a student who's in a wheelchair can get into it. But I think based on what we talked about at the beginning of this session and the needs that you guys expressed, I think we're not gonna cover that unless somebody has a really strong need to do that. So, okay. So what I want to do is stop now and ask if anyone has questions or any individual troubleshooting, or what do you guys want to see? What do you want to do? What can we help with? And if you don't want to, I can teach you about accessibility. Okay. Questions? On me, call them out, type in chat. People here, anyone want to see anything or?
The rubrics was my thing that I wanted to see.
Okay, so are you good? Do you have more
Yeah.
questions or?
No,
you
it's
just-
good.
I mean,
I just went through accessibility the other day, so.
Yeah, okay. All right, Zoomers, this is our, I don't know, does everybody use this lingo? We call the people who come in person roomers and the people who are join on Zoom Zoomers.
Hmm.
So I want to ask if any of the Zoomers have any questions. It sounds like there's no questions. Do you want me, I mean, we have a choice, we can either end early or I can show you the accessibility stuff. Okay.
Go for accessibility.
Okay, all right. Annickie's like, yes, accessibility. Okay.
but do you have any other questions about rubrics?
No, my friend talked to me about it. She's like, oh yeah, I sit on my tablet outside and I grade like this. I'm like, well, how do you do that? But she was talking about that, setting up a rubric for one, and then thank you for showing me that you just go in and click on that. And then also the library, I had no idea, which is also time consuming and getting feedback. But, and just especially the generic one, like if it's something that's repeated or like, good job, this looks great, just click and then. Cause I get spelling errors too, so I have to like delete it. Right.
Yes.
So just, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, when I think about when I was teaching the business writing class, how many times I had to write. Could you please go back and read the assignment criteria before you submit your assignment?
Repeated, exactly. Yeah, or the title is missing, or the title. is
Exactly.
Or something very specific to that class, yeah.
Exactly.
Capitalization and
Double
punctuation.
space, right,
Totally.
something like that, is
Yeah.
automated.
Okay, so one thing that, you know, as I mentioned, when we're building our Canvas courses, we have to keep ADA regulations in mind. Okay, so these are the main things that you need to think about when you're creating your course to make sure that it's accessible. The first is alt text or alternative text, and that is when you're adding images or graphs to any pages or any assignments in Canvas, you need to add a textual description of those so that people who are using screen readers know what they are. Okay, I'll go through all of these things in a little bit more detail. Headings refers to the way that you're gonna set a page up. When we are reading textbooks, for example, we see big headings over certain areas in our textbooks. And that allows our eyes to skip over to kind of get a summary of what we're gonna see, get an idea of what we're gonna see, and know what the big main points are. Well, people who can't see obviously can't do that, but they can use their screen reader to skip through headings and get the same kind of idea that we would get, you know, by using our eyes. Lists need to be formatted as lists, so you need to make sure that you're actually clicking on an icon that turns them into lists in Canvas and not just writing numbers next to them or, you know, putting bullets or check marks or something next to them. Links need to use meaningful text, not just be a bunch of, like, a series of characters. And then we need to make sure we're always thinking about things like color contrast, text size, text font, and I'll show you the Canvas accessibility checker. Okay, so,
I'm gonna put a link with criteria on those things that you're mentioning, Johanna,
okay,
in the chat. It's the why accessibility matters in course design. Oh, actually, yeah, I log out of Zoom. So.
okay. So what I'm showing you here are a couple of, one of the things that we say in the accessibility world is that accessibility measures are essential for some, but useful for all. And these are a couple of, you know, things that were initially created as accessibility measures, but that I think most of us are using now in our everyday lives. The first image that you see is a crossing light that lets you know when you can cross, when you should not cross the street, and when you need to hurry up and get out of the street. So it used to be the case, and you know, maybe none of us remember this, that when you press the light to cross and it turned here in Southern California, we get a little white man crossing a street. When it turned to the white man, you saw that and you needed to cross before it turned red again. Well, now when you press that button, you also get, you get noise. If you can't cross, it says, wait, wait, wait.
Very forcefully.
Right, and then when it's time to cross, you get a fast, full little beeping saying, walk sign is on to cross, Main Street, walk sign is on to cross. So, I don't know about you guys, but I tend to, when I'm waiting at a stoplight, get distracted and look around me and, I don't know, play with cute little dogs or something, and I don't notice it changing, but the noise is what prompts me to start crossing. And so that was initially designed for, you know, designed for people who were, you know, had difficulty seeing or who were blind, but now I think a lot of us are relying on that noise. And then the second one is subtitles. And I often ask for a show of hands, how many people use subtitles when they watch TV? And in my life, almost everybody I know uses subtitles when they watch TV. I can't even remember when I started doing it. It's been so long. It's probably been 30 years. And, you know, I think there are a lot of reasons that we might do that. And I can't remember why I started doing it. I mean, I'm older now and yeah, I have issues with hearing, but when I started, I didn't. And I think I might have done it because sometimes accents were difficult to understand. You know, what I found now is that, like, I work nights. I come home, I eat my dinner, I watch TV, and I sleep late in the morning, and my husband works early in the morning. And so if I want to watch TV at night, I don't want to disturb him. I'll turn the volume down really quiet, but then I can't totally hear it. And so I put the subtitles on. You know what, if you're watching TV and your husband needs to get up and go grind coffee beans, you don't have to get mad at him because you have the subtitles on. You know, if the baby starts crying, you can still read it. So a lot of us are using subtitles, even though we don't need them because we don't have a disability. And so my point with that is that the measures that we're taking in Canvas are essential for the people who are trying to access your course who have disabilities. However, these measures also benefit many other people and not just people with disabilities. And we want to have our classes be inclusive and make everybody feel welcome. And, you know, we're ESL teachers, and I guarantee you guys, ESL students like their subtitles on, no matter how good their English is. And they take advantage of a lot of these other measures. And not everybody with a disability discloses that they have a disability, especially in adult ed. I don't have the statistics here with me, but more students with disabilities do not register with their local disability office or their school disability office. More students than not do not disclose a disability, so you don't know whether they have one or not. And for that reason, we need to make sure that our Canvas courses are fully accessible to everybody. You can't wait until someone asks you to change things so that they can access them. By law, you're required to ensure that they are accessible regardless of whether you have students with disabilities in your class. Okay, and most of the measures really do not take very long to set up in your course. And I like this image because the point is that you need to make sure you're baking accessibility in while you're building your course, because then it's nice and easy and beautiful, like the blueberry muffin. Because you bake the blueberries in before you put them in the oven. You don't bake your muffins and then take them out of the oven and then try to shove the blueberries in afterward. That would be a mess and it would be a disaster. And it's kind of the same with Canvas. If you build your course and you don't put the accessibility measures in, and then somebody tells you you have to, going back and trying to add them in is nightmarish and time consuming.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I'm not gonna do this demonstration. This is a demonstration of a screen reader, but I will put the slides in the chat. And if you wanna watch it, if you haven't seen this before, it's a pretty interesting demonstration, and it really shows you what a blind person's experience is of using a screen reader. So you can go through and watch that yourself. But if you don't use these measures, a blind person is not going to be able to be successful in your course. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we add what we call alt text to images. And it's important that the alt text, essentially, that it truly reflect what it is that's in the image, but also that it's pretty short. And a lot of these things here are not duplicated, don't use image of, don't use graphic of, don't use JPEG or PNG. Those things are there to keep it shorter and succinct, really. Okay, so if we go to, we've got some pages here with some pictures. I've got an image here in Canvas, and I click on image options. When you click on image options, what happens is this little, what do you call this? Little window pops up. And in here is where you're gonna type your alt text. So basically, just look at the image and describe what you see. And this might vary depending on the content of your course. So I'm an ESL teacher, maybe we're talking about studying or something, make sure you click done. So I'm gonna say it's a woman studying in the library, right? But maybe if somebody's designing libraries, they might be more interested in highlighting where the, where the books are versus the chairs. Or maybe, I can see both of these people have coffee cups. Maybe they're talking about like a, food-friendly library or something along those lines. So the content or the text that you're gonna use depends on the context of your class and what you want the students to get out of that image. And people sometimes get caught up and they worry about like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? I think the best description or the best bit of advice that I ever had was any alt text is better than no alt text. Just add your alt text, do your best, don't overthink it. A couple of guidelines I've been given in terms of thinking like how can I describe that? What language should I use? Is how would you describe what you're looking at to a blind person? Or what would you type into Google if you wanted that image to come up? So if you're having trouble thinking of what the alt text is that you should use, ask yourself that question. What would I describe to a person who can't see it? Or what would I tell Google in order to make that image come up?
Well, now you can add in, what would you put into an AI to have the picture you want come up?
Yes. Yes.
You can keep testing it till you get the right picture.
I attended a thing this morning, though, but no, it was the guy this morning, It's a lot, I'm so tired now. It's okay. But he was saying that, something like 80% of American adults have not tried the AI yet.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised to hear that.
Out of the percentage educator.
No, I know.
I've definitely used it myself.
I mean, talk about saving time.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, so that's how you add the alt text. I don't know if I put alt text on all of these already. It looks like I have. You click on the image, you click image options, your window pops up and you can type the alt text into there. But if you don't have an image in already and you want to put it in for the first time, you're gonna click on your little image icon there. Find an image that you want to upload from your computer. Let me see what my images are here, right?
I think the
Okay.
description has a limit on how much you can describe. If it's
Yeah.
more
Yes.
than,
Yeah,
I don't know how many, what's the amount of words that you're trying to describe, then it's not gonna accept your alt text.
yeah, it needs to be short. I
Short.
mean, I think that it's a
So
character.
you wouldn't want to
Character,
describe
that's-
each and every one of the students in that picture.
No. Exactly, I mean, that's a good point, like, no, you don't, so my alt text that I would, write with this is student in classroom raising hand.
Perfect.
You know, yeah, you don't wanna be like, student in a classroom with
With
one,
the
two, three,
best
four, five, six,
afro
seven.
raising hand.
Very attractive man with a
Yeah.
cute little earring. So if you're adding it like that, when you click on your button, before you click on the, so again, upload an image. Let's find my handsome
Alt text.
student, right? And you scroll down while you're waiting here before you put it in Canvas, and you can type your alt text there, right? So that when it uploads the image, if you click on image, options again, what was it, image options? It's already there because you typed it. Okay, so that's alt text. Any questions about alt text?
No.
Okay. Next is heading structure. So when you create, a page with a lot of text on it, you want to make sure that you're using a heading structure so that people using screen readers can skip through it, can like skim and scan in the way that we do when we're reading a textbook. Okay, so, let's get back to that Canvas page. And I'll show you, you'll see what I mean in a second. Let me get back there. Okay, let's go to our cancel. Let's go home. Leave, go home. Come on, little computer. I'm getting nervous because I know we're running out of time.
How much time do we have?
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
We have 4 minutes.
Hurry, Johanna.
I know, I'm totally stressed me out. Okay, headings. Where's Johanna? Okay. Sample page. Okay, so if we look at this page here, the page title is always heading 1. So you don't have to add any heading title to that. But if we're thinking here about like, we've got chocolate and 3 types of dark chocolate. If your page title is heading 1, your big main title is gonna be heading 2. And then dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate are gonna be heading 3, and everything else is text. Okay, so, we look here, when I highlight this, oh, I guess we can't see it. Okay, when I highlight this, it says paragraph, okay? All of this is, does this say paragraph? I guess we can't, Canvas makes this heading number 1 automatically. But when I highlight this, it says paragraph. What it needs to say is heading 2. So heading 1 is not an option because the page title is automatically heading number 1. We need to make chocolate heading number 2. There's 3 types of chocolate, so each one of those headings is gonna be heading 3. Dark chocolate's heading 3, milk chocolate's heading 3, and white chocolate's heading 3. Okay, and then that enables, I think I messed that up there. That needs to be paragraph. Everything else should be paragraph, okay? See, it's paragraph up there, it's paragraph here. Everything else should be paragraph, except for your headings. You go down there and save, and as I said, I was showing this sort of, like outline. Okay, cooking, that's your heading 1, that's the name of your page. Chocolate, your Roman numeral number 1 is gonna be heading 2, and then your capital letters, they're gonna be heading 3. Everything else should be paragraph. I'm gonna wrap it up there because I don't think we have time to go into all of the rest of this. But you have everything in the chat. So I'm gonna go to the next slides and show you, I should show you the Canvas accessibility checker really quick first. These are evaluations so that you can evaluate us and our presentation. You can evaluate the symposium overall. These are our contact details if you want to email me and Chris to ask any questions afterward.